J.R.R. Tolkien, the maker of Middle-earth. In the heart of England, where the mists roll over ancient hills and the trees whisper of forgotten ages, a scholar sat by lamplight, writing in long, flowing lines of Elvish. He was not merely telling a story. He was creating a world of courage and loss, of friendship and fate, of light fighting endlessly against the shadow. His name was John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, philologist, soldier, poet, mythmaker. And from the quiet rooms of academia and the scars of war, he forged one of the greatest mythologies ever told, the Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit, and the Silmarillion. But behind the myths of Middle-earth lies another story, the story of the man who believed in myth, who built entire languages before breakfast, and who saw in the ordinary fields of England the glimmer of an ancient, sacred world. This is the story of J.R.R. Tolkien, the maker of Middle-earth, the man who turned words into worlds and imagination into immortality. John Ronald Reuel Tolkien was born on January 3, 1892, in Bloemfontein, South Africa. His father, Arthur, was a bank manager, his mother, Mabel, a devoted teacher. But when he was only 3, Mabel took her 2 sons back to England for their health, and soon after Arthur died far away in the African heat. It was the first great loss of Tolkien's life. In the green countryside near Sarahole Mill, young Ronald found a world of wonder, trees that seemed alive, hills that whispered stories, and rivers that glittered with hidden magic. He later said that his entire mythology was born out of the memory of that landscape, the lost paradise of childhood. When his mother converted to Catholicism, her family turned away. She died of diabetes when Tolkien was just 12, leaving him an orphan for the second time. He would call her a martyr for her faith, and the loss of her love and protection cast a shadow that would never leave him. But her gift, a deep love of language, faith, and myth, became the foundation of everything he would one day create. Tolkien's talent with languages appeared early. By his teens, he was reading Greek, Latin, and Old English for pleasure, and inventing his own tongues for play. At King Edward's School in Birmingham, and later at Exeter College, Oxford, he fell in love with the music of ancient words, Welsh, Finnish, Gothic, the bones of forgotten cultures. For him, language wasn't just a tool, it was a living art form. In 1908, he met Edith Bratt, a fellow orphan 3 years older. They fell in love, but when his guardian forbade the relationship until he came of age, Tolkien obeyed. On his 21st birthday, he wrote to her again, and she waited for him. Their love became one of the great stories of his life, the mortal inspiration for Beren and Luthien, the lovers of Middle-earth who defied death itself. In 1914, the Great War began. By the time Tolkien completed his degree, he was wearing a uniform. He fought as a signals officer in the Battle of the Somme, one of the bloodiest battles in human history. The mud, the stench, the endless death, it marked him forever. He saw friends from school and university die around him, swallowed by the earth like fallen kings in a forgotten war. In the trenches, he began to write fragments of myth, strange names, ancient histories, languages that seemed older than time. He was trying to make sense of the horror by creating beauty from it. He would later write, "By 1918, all but one of my close friends were dead." When he returned home, weak with trench fever, he began to build the world that had flickered in his imagination during those dark days, a mythology for England, a story to heal the soul of a nation broken by war. From the 1920s onward, Tolkien's life was that of a scholar, teaching at Oxford, lecturing on Anglo-Saxon poetry, studying Beowulf and the roots of northern myth. But in his spare time, he wrote, he didn't just invent stories, he invented worlds. He created languages first, then histories, then the peoples who would speak them, elves, dwarves, men, hobbits. He drew maps, wrote songs, composed legends. Middle-earth was not a fantasy setting, it was a living mythology, built from the inside out. He called it subcreation, the idea that humans, made in the image of the Creator, could also create worlds of their own. In 1937, he published The Hobbit, a tale he had written for his children, light, whimsical, and unexpected. It was an instant success, but it was only the doorway. For over a decade, Tolkien worked on its sequel, a vast epic that grew beyond anything he imagined. The Lord of the Rings was not just a story, it was an entire cosmos of myth, language, morality, and fate. He wrote slowly, meticulously, often doubting it would ever end. War came again, echoing the darkness he had known before, and yet through it all he persisted. One word, one world at a time. When the trilogy finally appeared between 1954 and 1955, it changed everything. It became one of the most beloved and influential works of the 20th century. But beneath the adventure and grandeur lay something deeper, a meditation on power, corruption, loss, and the fading of beauty. Tolkien's world was not escapism, it was reflection. He once wrote, "Fantasy is not a flight from reality, but a way of understanding it." At Oxford, Tolkien found kindred spirits among a group called the Inklings, writers who gathered to share their work and their whiskey by the fire. Among them was C.S. Lewis, who became both his friend and his theological sparring partner. Together, they believed in the moral power of myth, that stories could speak truths the modern world had forgotten. Tolkien's faith was deep and quiet, woven into his myth without sermon or doctrine. He saw evil not as spectacle but as corruption, the slow dimming of good, and he saw hope as something small but indestructible, a light that refuses to go out. That light lives in Frodo, in Sam, in Gandalf's weary mercy and Galadriel's wisdom, the belief that even the smallest person can change the course of the future. While The Lord of the Rings brought Tolkien global fame, his heart always lay in his older, deeper legends, the Silmarillion, the vast mythology of his imagined universe. He labored over it for decades, shaping and reshaping the creation of his world, its gods, languages, and tragic heroes. He called it the music of the Ainur, a cosmic symphony of light and shadow. Though it was not published in his lifetime, his son Christopher Tolkien would later bring it to the world, revealing the immense depth behind the stories readers already loved. Through these works, Tolkien achieved what no other modern author had, a mythology so complete it feels ancient, a world so real it feels remembered. Tolkien passed away in 1973, 2 years after his beloved Edith. On their shared gravestone are written the names Beren and Luthien, the lovers who defied death in his mythology. His stories have never faded. They have become the cornerstone of modern fantasy, inspiring generations of writers, artists, and filmmakers. But beyond the magic and battles, Tolkien's true gift was meaning. He gave the modern world a mythology not of gods, but of mortals, of courage, sacrifice, friendship, and faith. He taught that even in the darkest times there is light worth fighting for. He wrote, "The world is indeed full of peril, and in it there are many dark places, but still there is much that is fair. And though in all lands love is now mingled with grief, it grows perhaps the greater." J.R.R. Tolkien was more than an author. He was a myth-maker for the modern age, a craftsman of words who wove the languages of angels and the dreams of men into a living legend. He showed that imagination is not an escape from the world, but its renewal. That through story, we can see ourselves more clearly, fragile, flawed, and yet filled with wonder. His Middle-earth is not a place we visit, it is a mirror of who we are and who we might become. John Ronald Reuel. Tolkien's story is the story of the man who turned language into legend and taught the world that even the smallest light can endure the longest night.
Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more videos.